I have a problem with the Portland Trail Blazers and Damian Lillard. I think they must think I'm not familiar with their game. This franchise has been pretty underwhelming for the last few years while having one of the best players in my generation in Damian Lillard, Dame time. But for the past 4 years, they have yet to win over 43 games in a season. Constant disappointments and missed expectations, and are once again missing the playoffs for the second straight year. And with their recent success in the 2023 NBA Draft Lottery, earning the 3rd overall pick, the Blazers are about to make another poor decision that will not progress the franchise. I am against this team trading that pick to try to improve this roster. I'm not trying to be a hater or someone that doesn't want to see the Blazers succeed, but I think they're going in the absolute wrong direction. Let's talk about it. Like I stated before, since the Blazers made the conference finals in 2019, the Portland Trail Blazers have yet to win over 43 games in an NBA season. Since then, they haven't made it out the first round, and this will be the second straight year they've missed the playoffs while having one of the best point guards in the NBA, Damian Lillard. And a part that has to look into, you have to look at the Blazers front office. When you look at the pick that they just earned, the number 3 overall pick, in a draft class that is stacked with players such as Brandon Miller that might fall to you, or Scoot Henderson, or Amen Thompson, one of the Thompson twins, the Blazers are in a prime position to add more adequate pieces to their already young core with their leader in Damian Lillard. But I think they don't understand that trading the number 3 overall pick doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a star player in the making to add to Damian Lillard. If you look into what the Blazers front office has said, they're looking to trade for an elite star to add to Damian Lillard to help them win going forward as Damian Lillard goes into the latter years of his career. I'm not going to lie to you. I understand it. I feel like it's unfortunate for Damian Lillard that now the Blazers are taking much more efforts into building a more competent roster for them to succeed, but I think the time has passed for that. I personally believe there's no trade that will add in a competent piece to put the Blazers over the hump in the Western Conference. You look at teams such as the Brooklyn Nets with the Mikal Bridges, the Boston Celtics, those rumors of the Toronto Raptors trading away Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and I think these guys are all great players. But to ask yourself, trading the number 3 overall pick and trading away a player like Anthony Simons, who's only 22, who averaged 27 points per game in the starting lineup when Dame wasn't there, do you think adding all these adequate pieces in a trade to add in an all-star caliber player next to Damian Lillard will put them over the hump in the Western Conference? I personally don't think so. And it's not to me, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on the Portland Trail Blazers, but I'm trying to be realistic here. The name of the game in today's NBA is depth. If you have depth in the NBA, you can do a lot of things with your versatility and your production on the court. And if you're going to trade in all your assets that have performed very, very well in your young core, you could potentially cap your team's ceiling with their potential to produce in the NBA long term. As of right now, the highest paid player on the Portland Trail Blazers is Damian Lillard, making around $45 million a year, and Anthony Simons making $24 million coming in second. This team obviously does have some space to make some moves in the offseason, but when I look at the roster and look at what you could potentially bring in, I don't feel like it's enough to beat any of the top tier teams in the Western Conference. You have the Denver Nuggets, you have the Phoenix Suns who will be reloaded, the Lakers who are reloaded, the Clippers who will be reloaded as well, and you have the younger teams who are excelling as well in the Sacramento Kings, the Pelicans, the Thunder, all these teams with assets and players and a core, which is super important, a core that can potentially build in the future in the NBA. The Blazers technically don't have that, and they want to trade in all of their young core pieces for a star to sit next to Damian Lillard to hopefully come out the Western Conference. I don't see it as a viable option. Another big issue with the dilemma of the Trailblazers trying to trade that number 3 overall pick is that they're currently deadlocked in trading any of the first round picks in the near future. Due to a trade back in 2021, the Blazers owe their first round pick to the Chicago Bulls, but is lottery protected each year until 2028. So if it falls in 1 through 14, the Blazers get their pick, but it moves on to the next. Those protections move on to the next year. But unfortunately, due to those protections, the Blazers can't trade a single first round pick in any trade till 2028. Meaning that if you trade your number 3 overall pick this year, you potentially can't make any other moves until you are an actual viable playoff team. And I don't think that's going to be enough for them to make it to the playoffs, especially with their roster right now and how hard it is to add assets and build through the new CBA. Furthermore, with those lottery protections, if the Blazers are able to build through the draft and able to keep those picks until 2028 as they continuously build their young core, they could possibly add in more pieces that are younger that can also aid into their core and into the future as they try to perform to be successful long term. But that would mean trading Damian Lillard, which I think is what they need to be doing. Look, Blazer fans, I have no problem with Damian Lillard. I respect his game. He's one of the best that we've ever seen. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame. But I think for the future of the Portland Trail Blazers, they have to look into the mirror and see what their viable options are. Without the ability to trade your first round picks in the near future due to them being lottery protected, you have to think about what you can do to build your team, especially with what you have right now. I think Anthony Simons is a great young piece. I think Shaedon Sharpe, even though he did not make an all-rookie team this year, is still a great viable option and has shown signs of being a very, very talented scorer in today's game with his freakish athleticism. Adding a guy like Nasir Little, guys like Cam Reddish who can sign back on a cheap minimum, you have so many options that you can do, especially with your young core. And if you trade Damian Lillard and get back so much more assets to help you build, you could really see yourself in a situation where you could be one of the better young teams with a lot of assets with the ability to draft in the NBA for the next few years. Damian Lillard should ask for a trade. And I understand it. I understand he wants to build in Portland. He's been there his entire career. He's built his ties there. And I honestly expect it. If he wants to stay in Portland and play his entire career there, I have no problem with it. But for the sake of him wanting to succeed and win and playing games that matter in the postseason, I truly believe he's going to have to ask for a trade, which will be a win-win for the Blazers side and Damian Lillard's side as well. I think he's one of the greatest players we've ever seen, but people love, people love to make jokes and a bunch of memes about the fact that he hasn't really succeeded and won much in the NBA outside of a three-point contest, which is stupid. Like, come on, guys, that's Dame time. He has some crazy moments in his career, but even with those crazy moments in his career, he's yet to produce. He's yet to get to the NBA Finals. He's only been to the conference finals one time in his entire career, which is insane for a player of his talent. I personally believe that I think Damian Lillard knows that he probably can't win a championship in Portland, but wants to stay loyal to his franchise. And I think even if Portland does try to make a trade to try to add in pieces next to Damian Lillard, when his contract kicks in the last 2 years, where he's making close to $60 million a year, I feel like it's going to be much more harder for the Blazers to add in more depth to surround him as he gets older, for this to be a viable team that could contend in the Western Conference. I think you look at the fact that, hey, you have younger pieces already in Anthony Simons and the Shaedon Sharpe, and potentially if they do draft a player, you could add a player like Brandon Miller, who would be a viable option at the 3 next to Damian Lillard. And you have a young core led by Damian Lillard, and if you can possibly add in an all-star player in free agency, that's something that you're cooking with. But I personally do not believe gutting your entire roster and trading the only pick you have and your young core for a player that could be a running mate next to Damian Lillard wouldn't be a viable and realistic option for the Blazers to succeed long-term in the Western Conference, which is only going to get better. But again, this goes to what my main point is. The Blazers front office is lazy, and Damian Lillard isn't truly being aggressive enough. You look at all the best teams in the NBA, they've all been built on having a great young core to start off with and building their depth and allowing them to grow. And when you don't allow that to happen, you find teams that cap off in maybe the second round, sometimes the first round, sometimes don't even make the playoff. The Blazers are in a perfect situation where they've been blessed to have 2 top 5 picks in the past 2 drafts and are able to have a player in Anthony Simons who I think is one of the better young guards in the NBA. Damian Lillard has been one of the best point guards in the NBA in Portland Trail Blazer history, period. I think they deserve to put him in a situation where if they can't build an adequate roster for him to succeed, send him to a team that can put him in a position to succeed long term and get to the conference finals, hopefully get to the finals one day. When it comes to the Portland Trail Blazers and the number 3 overall pick and all the rumors that we've heard, trading the number 3 overall pick for another player to pair up with Damian Lillard would be a grave mistake in my honest opinion. But y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think? For the news that you've heard from the Portland Trail Blazers, what move should they make with the number 3 overall pick? Should they trade Damian Lillard? Should they trade the pick? Or should they go ahead and just draft a player in this year's draft? Y'all let me know in the comment section. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn the post notification bell on so you never miss a video. And until next time, stay on beat.